Kiwu stepped off the transport shuttle and looked around the massive space station. Nexus Station was bigger than any city he had ever seen on Earth. The walls curved up and disappeared into the distance. Bright lights shone everywhere, and the air smelled clean and fresh. He carried a small bag with his few belongings. His uniform felt stiff and new. The blue fabric had the Galactic Peacekeeper symbol on the chest. Kiwu touched it gently. He still could not believe he was here. New. "Student?" asked a voice behind him. Kiwu turned around. A tall, thin creature made of what looked like living crystal stood there. The being sparkled in the light, and Kiwu could see through parts of its body. "Yes," Kiwu said. "I am Kiwu from Earth." The crystal being made a sound like wind chimes. "I am Velthar from the crystalline worlds. Earth is the death world, correct?" Kiwu nodded. He had heard that term many times during his journey here. Earth was classified as a Class 12 death world. Most planets in the galaxy were Class 1 or 2. Earth was considered one of the most dangerous planets where intelligent life had ever developed. "Interesting," Velthar said. "I have read about your planet. Very harsh conditions. It is amazing that your species survived." They walked together through the station corridors. Other beings moved around them. Kiwu saw creatures with blue skin and gills behind their ears. Large insect-like beings with thick armor walked on 6 legs. Small furry creatures floated using some kind of technology. "There is our dormitory," Velthar pointed with one crystalline arm. The building was huge and white. Windows covered every surface. They entered through automatic doors that sensed their approach. Inside, Kiwu met his other roommates. Zephyros was one of the blue-skinned aquatic beings. Water constantly flowed over his skin from small tubes in his suit. Gornith was an insectoid, with dark green armor covering his entire body. His 4 arms moved independently as he organized his belongings. "Welcome, Earth human," Gornith said. His voice sounded like gravel in a metal container. "I have heard much about your species." "Good things, I hope," Kiwu said. "Mostly warnings," Zephyros replied. His voice was smooth and flowing like water. "Your planet is known for producing very dangerous life forms." Kiwu did not know what to say to that. On Earth, humans were just normal. They went to school, worked jobs, and lived peaceful lives. But apparently the rest of the galaxy saw them differently. The next morning, Kiwu reported to his first class. The instructor was Commander Thrain, a large being with gray skin and 4 eyes. Thrain stood at the front of a classroom filled with dozens of different species. "Today we begin basic training protocols," Thrain announced. "You will learn the fundamental skills needed to become peacekeepers." The first exercise was a simple reaction test. Students had to press a button when a light flashed. Kiwu waited for his turn. He watched as other students took the test. They seemed to move very slowly. When the light flashed, it took them what felt like a long time to react. When Kiwu's turn came, he sat at the testing station. The light flashed, and he pressed the button immediately. The machine made a beeping sound. "Adequate," Commander Thrain said, looking at his tablet. "Your reaction time meets minimum standards." Kiwu was confused. He felt like he had reacted instantly, but apparently that was just barely good enough. The next test was physical strength. Students had to lift weights using mechanical devices. Kiwu watched Gornith lift what appeared to be very heavy objects. His 4 arms worked together, and his armored body showed no strain. When Kiwu's turn came, he approached the machine. The weights felt surprisingly light. He lifted them easily, but he noticed that the other students were watching him with interest. He decided to pretend it was more difficult than it actually was. "Adequate," Commander Thrain said again. "Within normal ranges for your species." During lunch, Kiwu sat with his roommates in the cafeteria. The food was strange but nutritious. Different species had different dietary needs, so the cafeteria served hundreds of different meals. "How did you find the morning training?" Velthar asked. "It was fine," Kaiwu replied. "The equipment seems very advanced." Advanced? Gornith's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Those are basic training devices. We use much more sophisticated equipment on my homeworld." Kiwu nodded but said nothing. To him, the devices seemed almost primitive. Earth technology had developed differently due to the planet's harsh conditions. Humans had learned to make things simple, strong, and reliable. The afternoon brought tactical planning exercises. Students worked in teams to solve combat scenarios, using computer simulations. This was where Kiwu felt more comfortable. The problems reminded him of strategy games he had played on Earth. "We should approach from the north," Velthar suggested during one exercise. "The enemy will expect that," Zephyros countered. "The river gives us better cover from the south." Kiwu studied the computer display. He could see patterns that the others missed. Multiple approach routes, timing considerations, and resource management all became clear to him. "What if we split into 3 groups?" Kiwu suggested. "One team creates a distraction from the north. Another team flanks from the south. The third team goes straight through the middle while the enemy is confused." His teammates looked at the display again. After a moment, Velthar's crystals chimed softly. "That could work," Velthar admitted. They tried Kiwu's plan in the simulation. It worked perfectly. The enemy forces were completely overwhelmed by the coordinated attack. "Excellent tactical thinking," Commander Thrain announced to the class. The Earth Humans team achieved victory in record time. After classes ended, Kiwu returned to his dormitory room. He sat on his bed and looked out the window at the stars. Earth was somewhere out there, so far away that its light would take years to reach him. His roommates seemed friendly enough, but he could tell they were still uncertain about him. They had all heard stories about Deathworlds and the creatures that lived on them. Kiwu understood their caution, but it made him feel lonely. He pulled out a small photograph of his family back on Earth. His parents had been so proud when he was accepted into the Peacekeeper Academy. They did not fully understand what it meant, but they knew it was a great honor. Kiwu promised himself that he would make them proud. He would prove that humans could be good peacekeepers. He would show the galaxy that Earth's harsh conditions had not made humans violent or dangerous. They had made them strong and capable of protecting others. As he drifted off to sleep, Kiwu wondered what tomorrow would bring. He had no idea that his presence at the academy would soon change how the entire galaxy viewed his species. 3 weeks had passed since Kiwu arrived at the academy. He had settled into a routine of classes, training, and study time. His roommates had become more comfortable around him, though they still seemed surprised by some of his abilities. During morning combat training, Kiwu practiced with energy weapons alongside the other students. The weapons were designed to be safe for training, but they still required careful handling. Kaiwu found them easy to use, though he had to concentrate to move as slowly as the other students expected. "Your accuracy is improving," Velthar observed. As they finished target practice, Kiwu looked at his results. He had hit the center of the target every time, but he had deliberately aimed for different parts of the center to make it look less perfect. "Thank you," Kiwu said. I am still learning. Gornith approached them, his heavy footsteps clicking on the metal floor. The weapons training is too easy, he complained. On my homeworld, we train with much more challenging equipment. These are standard Peacekeeper weapons, Zephyros pointed out. We must learn to use what we will carry in the field. Kiwu listened to their conversation, but did not join in. He had noticed that the weapons seemed designed for beings with much slower reflexes than humans. The targeting systems provided assistance that humans did not need. The recoil compensation was set for beings much weaker than humans. That afternoon brought an unexpected announcement. Commander Thrain called all students to the main assembly hall. "We have a special guest instructor today," Thrain announced. "Major So-Min from Earth will be giving a lecture on tactical applications in hostile environments." Kiwu's eyes widened. So-Min was a legendary figure among Earth's military forces. She had served in the most dangerous conflicts on Earth before joining the Galactic Peacekeepers. He had never expected to meet her. So-Min walked onto the stage with confident, measured steps. She was shorter than Kiwu, but carried herself with unmistakable authority. Her uniform bore decorations from multiple campaigns. When she spoke, her voice carried clearly through the large hall. Peacekeeping often requires operations in dangerous environments, So-Min began. Today I will discuss survival and tactical considerations for hostile terrain. She began showing images of various planets and environments, volcanic worlds with poisonous atmospheres, ice planets where temperatures dropped below what most species could survive, ocean worlds with crushing depths and dangerous predators. The key to survival, So-Min continued, is understanding your own capabilities and limitations. Many species make the mistake of overestimating their abilities in unfamiliar environments. Kiwu noticed that she briefly made eye contact with him during that statement. There was something in her expression that suggested she knew exactly who he was. After the lecture, students had the opportunity to ask questions. Most questions focused on equipment and technology for surviving harsh conditions. Finally, Kiwu raised his hand. "Major So-Min," he said, "what advice would you give to someone whose home world prepared them for harsh conditions, but who finds themselves in situations where they must moderate their natural responses?" So-Min studied his face for a moment before answering. "That is an excellent question. Sometimes the greatest challenge is not pushing beyond your limits, but staying within limits that others can understand and accept." She paused, then continued. "I would advise such a person to be patient. There will come a time when their full capabilities will be both needed and appreciated. Until then, wisdom lies in building trust through consistent, reliable performance." After the lecture ended, So-Min approached Kiwu as students filed out of the hall. "Walk with me," she said quietly. They left the hall together and walked through a less crowded corridor. So-Min waited until they were alone before speaking. "You are holding back," she said. "It was not a question." "I do not want to cause alarm," Kiwu replied. "Smart," So-Min nodded. "But be careful not to hold back so much that you forget what you are capable of. There may come a time when lives depend on your true abilities." She handed him a small device. "This is a training monitor calibrated for human physiology. Use it when you exercise alone. It will help you maintain your actual fitness levels while appearing to train at the level others expect." Kiwu took the device. "Thank you, Major." "Call me So-Min," she said with a slight smile. "We are both far from home here." Over the following weeks, Kiwu continued his training while using So-Min's advice. He exercised privately using the human-calibrated monitor. During group training, he maintained his carefully moderate performance. His tactical planning abilities continued to impress his instructors and classmates. In every simulation, Ki-Woo's strategies proved effective. He had an intuitive understanding of three-dimensional combat that surprised his alien classmates. "How do you see these patterns so quickly?" Velthar asked after another successful simulation. "On Earth, we have many different types of terrain," Ki-Woo explained. "Mountains, forests, oceans, deserts. We learn to think about space in many different ways. This was true, though it was not the complete truth. Humans had evolved as persistence, hunters on a dangerous world. Their brains were naturally adapted for tracking, predicting movement, and understanding complex spatial relationships." One evening, as Ki-Woo studied in the dormitory common room, Gornith approached him with what appeared to be excitement. "Ki-Woo," Gornith said, "there is important news. The Academy is planning a special event." "What kind of event?" Ki-Woo asked. "A friendship tournament," Zephyros explained, joining their conversation. "It is designed to build cooperation between species through friendly competition." Velthar's crystals chimed with anticipation. "There will be competitions in various categories: strength, intelligence, precision, speed, and teamwork." "It sounds interesting," Ki-Woo said carefully. "All students must participate," Gornith continued. "We must each choose a category that showcases our species' natural abilities." Ki-Woo felt a small knot of worry form in his stomach. "When is this tournament?" "In 2 weeks," Velthar replied. "The entire galaxy will be watching. It is broadcast to all member worlds." That night, Ki-Woo lay in his bed, staring at the ceiling. A galactic broadcast tournament where he would have to compete against other species. There was no way to avoid it without appearing cowardly or disrespectful. He thought about contacting So-Min for advice, but she had already departed for another assignment. He was on his own to figure out how to participate without revealing too much about human capabilities. The next morning, students began signing up for tournament categories. The strength category filled quickly with species known for their physical power. The intelligence category attracted species with advanced mental abilities. Precision drew those with natural accuracy and fine motor control. Ki-Woo watched as his roommates selected their categories. Gornith chose strength, confident in his armored body's power. Velthar selected precision, trusting his crystalline structure's natural stability. Zephyros picked teamwork, drawing on his species' cooperative nature. By the end of the day, only the speed category remained open, and only Ki-Woo had not yet registered. Commander Thrain approached him during evening meal. "Ki-Woo," Thrain said, "you must choose a category. The speed category is the only one with openings remaining." Ki-Woo looked around the cafeteria. His classmates were watching with interest. He could not refuse to participate without insulting the academy and his fellow students. "I will compete in the speed category," Ki-Woo said quietly. Thrain made a note on his tablet. "Excellent. The speed trials will test agility, reflexes, and raw velocity. It should be an interesting competition." As Thrain walked away, Ki-Woo noticed his roommates, exchanging glances. They clearly did not expect much from their human friend in a speed competition. After all, humans came from a heavy-gravity world and had shown only adequate reflexes in training. Ki-Woo returned to his meal, trying to appear calm. Inside, he was calculating desperately. How could he compete without revealing the true extent of human speed and agility? How could he avoid last place without shocking everyone with his real capabilities? He had 2 weeks to figure out a solution. 2 weeks before the galaxy would watch him run. The day of the friendship tournament arrived with great ceremony. Nexus Station buzzed with excitement as representatives from dozens of worlds gathered to watch their species compete. Colorful banners hung throughout the corridors, and the Academy's main arena had been transformed into a spectacular venue. Kai Wu stood in the competitors' preparation area, watching the early events on large display screens. The strength competition had been impressive, with massive beings lifting weights that would crush most species. Gornith had performed well, placing third among his competitors. The precision trials followed, featuring incredible displays of accuracy and fine motor control. Velthar had managed to thread energy beams through impossibly small openings, earning second place in his category. "The speed trials begin in 30 minutes, announced a mechanical voice throughout the station. Ki Wu felt his heart rate increase slightly. Over the past 2 weeks, he had tried various strategies for limiting his performance without appearing to deliberately lose. Nothing felt quite right. He would have to trust his instincts during the actual competition. In the stands, a familiar figure caught his attention. Jae Hyun, a senior human peacekeeper, had arrived to watch the tournament. He was one of only a handful of humans serving in the galactic forces. His presence made Ki-woo feel both proud and nervous. The arena announcer's voice boomed across the stadium. "Citizens of the galaxy, welcome to the speed trials. Today we will see demonstrations of velocity, agility, and reflexes from 5 different species." Ki-woo joined his fellow competitors at the starting area. The track stretched out before them, a complex course designed to test multiple aspects of speed and agility. It included straight sprints, obstacle weaving, vertical climbing sections, and precision jumping requirements. His competitors were impressive specimens. Zixtal was a spider-like being from a low-gravity world with 8 legs that could move independently. Her species was known for rapid, complex movements. Arion belonged to a winged race that could glide short distances, giving him advantages in the jumping sections. The third competitor, Flux, came from a species that could partially phase through solid matter, allowing them to take shortcuts that others could not. The fourth, Dashka, was a quadrupedal being whose species had evolved as plains runners on a world with massive open spaces. "Competitors, please take your positions," the announcer called. Ki-woo stepped up to the starting line alongside the others. The track ahead looked challenging but manageable. He had studied the course layout extensively and planned his route carefully. In the commentary booth, the announcers began their pre-race analysis. "This should be fascinating," said the first commentator, a floating jellyfish-like being. "We have representatives from some of the galaxy's fastest species." "Indeed," agreed the second commentator, whose translator gave him a mechanical voice. "Though I must say, the human competitor is something of a surprise entry. Earth is classified as a heavy-gravity death world. Such conditions typically produce strong, durable beings rather than fast ones. The human has shown adequate performance in academy training," the first commentator continued. "But competing against specialists in speed will be quite different. Zixtal's species holds the current galactic record for short-distance sprints." In the stands, Jae Hyun listened to the commentary with a carefully neutral expression. He knew exactly what Ki-woo was capable of, and he was worried about what would happen when the young human finally let loose. Ki-woo crouched at the starting line, trying to look properly focused while actually analyzing the starting signal system. The sound would be in a frequency range that most species could hear clearly. For humans, It would be almost impossibly faint. He would have to watch for the visual signal instead. "Competitors ready," the announcer called. Kiwu settled into a starting position that looked similar to those used by his fellow competitors. Actually, he was coiled like a spring, every muscle fiber prepared for explosive acceleration. Beginning countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The starting signal fired, a pulse of light and sound that marked the beginning of the race. Kai Wu exploded from the starting line. What happened next would be replayed and analyzed for months afterward. Kai Wu's first step carried him further than most species could move in 3 strides. His second step launched him past the first obstacle before his competitors had fully begun moving. To the spectators, it looked like teleportation. One moment, Kai Wu was at the starting line. The next moment, he was already weaving through the obstacle course with fluid, impossible grace. Zixtal was fast, her 8 legs carrying her in a complex dance of movement. But Kiwu was moving at a speed that made her look like she was running through thick liquid. The climbing section should have been challenging. Competitors were supposed to scale a 15-meter vertical wall using only small handholds. Kiwu approached the wall at full speed and simply ran up it, his feet finding purchase on holds too small for other species to use effectively. Arayan spread his wings to glide across a gap that was meant to test jumping ability. Kiwu simply leaped across it in a single bound, landing softly on the far side and continuing without breaking stride. The final section was a precision slalom through energy barriers. Touching a barrier would add time penalties. Kiwu flowed through the course like water, never coming close to touching a single barrier. He crossed the finish line and came to a stop, barely breathing hard. The arena fell completely silent. On the display boards, Kiwu's time appeared. 47.3 seconds. The previous record for the course had been 2 minutes and 14 seconds, set by a species that could partially phase through matter. Zixtal finished second, more than a minute behind Kiwu's time. She approached the finish line with her 8 legs, moving as fast as they could, but she looked like she was moving in slow motion compared to what the spectators had just witnessed. The silence stretched on. 30,000 beings from across the galaxy sat in stunned quiet, trying to process what they had seen. Finally, the first announcer spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. I believe we may need to verify these results." The second announcer was equally shaken. The human just broke the course record by over a minute and a half. That should be physically impossible." In the stands, Jae-hyun put his head in his hands. The secret was out. There would be no going back to quiet integration into galactic society. Now, Kiwu stood at the finish line trying to look appropriately tired while actually feeling like he had barely warmed up. He looked around at the shocked faces of his competitors, the stunned spectators, and the confused officials. "Did I do something wrong?" he asked quietly. Medical teams rushed onto the track. They surrounded Kiwu with scanning equipment, checking for signs of artificial enhancement or alien technology. The scanners beeped and hummed as they examined every inch of his body. "Readings are normal," announced the chief medical officer, Dr. Kethra. "No enhancement detected. No foreign technology. Biological signs consistent with baseline human physiology." Commander Thrain appeared at Kiwu's side, his 4 eyes wide with confusion and concern. "Kiwu," he said carefully, "are you injured? Are you experiencing any unusual effects?" "No, sir," Kiwu replied. "I feel fine. Did I complete the course incorrectly?" Thrain looked at his tablet, then at Kiwu, then at the display boards showing the impossible time. No, he said slowly. You completed it perfectly. You just did it faster than anyone thought possible. Across the galaxy, beings watching the broadcast sat in stunned silence. On dozens of worlds, emergency sessions were called to discuss the implications of what they had just witnessed. The human from the Deathworld had not just won the speed trials. He had redefined what the galaxy thought was possible for any biological being. And based on his confused expression and barely elevated breathing, it was becoming clear that he had not even been trying very hard. Kiwu looked around at the chaos. He had accidentally created and wondered if there was any way to go back to being underestimated. Somehow, he doubted it. The arena remained eerily quiet as medical teams continued their examinations of Kiwu. Dr. Kethra, the Academy's chief medical officer, ran scan after scan with increasingly sophisticated equipment. Each test returned the same result. Perfectly normal human biology. This makes no sense, Dr. Kethra muttered, studying her tablet. According to our database, humans are supposed to be strong but slow. Your performance suggests capabilities far beyond anything in our records. Kiwu sat patiently on the medical table while various devices hummed and beeped around him. Perhaps your records are incomplete, he suggested quietly. Commander Thrain paced back and forth nearby, his four eyes constantly shifting between Kiwu and the display boards that still showed the impossible time. News feeds from across the galaxy were already reporting the unprecedented event. We need answers, Thrain said firmly. I am ordering a complete review of Earth's classification and human capabilities. This level of performance cannot be normal. In the stands, Jae-hyun finally stood up and made his way toward the arena floor. He had hoped to avoid this situation, but it was clear that explanations were now necessary. Meanwhile, Kiwu's roommates approached the medical area with expressions of shock and confusion. Velthar's crystals were chiming in rapid, nervous patterns. Gornith's four arms gestured wildly as he tried to process what he had witnessed. Kiwu, Zephyros said, his aquatic features showing deep concern. What we saw, that was not possible. No being moves that fast. I am sorry if I upset anyone, Kiwu replied. I was just trying to complete the course as quickly as I could. As quickly as you could? Velthar's chimes became almost frantic. You were barely trying. You were not even breathing hard. This was true. Kiwu had actually been holding back significantly even during his impressive run. He had avoided using his full acceleration to prevent injury to other competitors from the displaced air. He had taken care not to damage the course with his footsteps. He had moved fast enough to win clearly, but not so fast as to seem completely impossible. Apparently, even his restrained speed was far beyond what the galaxy considered normal. Jae-hyun reached the medical area and approached Commander Thrain. Commander, I believe I can provide some context for what you have witnessed. Thrain turned his four eyes toward the senior human peacekeeper. Captain Jae-hyun, yes, please explain how this is possible. May I suggest we move this discussion to a more private setting? Jae-hyun asked, glancing around at the crowd of onlookers and news reporters. Thrain nodded and led them to a secure conference room adjacent to the arena. Kiwu, Dr. Kethra, Jae-hyun, and several Academy officials gathered around a large table. Captain, Thrain began, according to our records, humans are classified as strong but slow due to your high-gravity homeworld. What we witnessed today contradicts everything we know about your species. Jae-hyun took a deep breath. Commander, our classification was based on incomplete information. Earth is indeed a high-gravity world, but that is only one factor that shaped human evolution. He activated a holographic display showing Earth's solar system. Our planet is unique in several ways. Not only do we have high gravity, but we also have an unusually large moon that creates extreme tidal forces. Our world experiences regular ice ages, massive volcanic events, and weather patterns that most species would consider catastrophic. The hologram showed images of Earth's various environments: vast deserts, dense jungles, frozen polar regions, and deep oceans. Most importantly, Jae-hyun continued, Earth is home to an incredible variety of predators. Humans evolved not as the dominant species, but as prey animals that learned to outrun, outthink, and outlast everything that hunted them. Dr. Kethra studied the information with growing amazement. Your species developed persistence hunting as a survival strategy? Exactly, Jae-hyun confirmed. Humans can maintain high speeds over distances that would exhaust most predators. We can track prey for days without stopping. Our bodies are designed for endurance and efficiency. He brought up comparative charts showing human physiology versus other known species. What you see as impossible speed is actually quite normal for a human. Kaiwoo was being careful not to hurt anyone or damage your equipment. Commander Thrain's eyes widened further. Are you saying he was holding back? Kiwoo shifted uncomfortably in his chair. I did not want to cause alarm or appear disrespectful to the other competitors. How much were you holding back? Dr. Kethra asked. Kiwoo looked at Jae-hyun for guidance. The senior officer nodded encouragingly. Perhaps 70%, Kiwoo said quietly. The room fell silent. If Kiwoo had been using only 30% of his actual capability, and still broken the galactic record by over a minute, the implications were staggering. Show them, Jae-hyun said gently. It is time for honesty. Kiwoo stood up and moved to an open area of the conference room. I will demonstrate basic human movement. Please step back. The others moved to the far side of the room. Kiwoo took a ready position, then moved. He was there, then he was across the room, then he was back in his original position. To the observers, it looked like he had simply disappeared and reappeared. The entire movement had taken less than 2 seconds. By the ancient stars, Dr. Kethra whispered. How is this possible? Jae-hyun brought up more detailed information about human biology. Humans have the highest muscle density of any known species. Our reaction times are measured in milliseconds, where most species measure in tenths of seconds. Our cardiovascular systems are designed to supply massive amounts of oxygen during extended physical activity. He showed brain scans comparing human neural activity to other species. Human brains process spatial and temporal information at rates that allow for complex three-dimensional movement at high speeds. We can calculate trajectories, predict obstacles, and adjust our movement in real time. This explains your tactical abilities as well, Commander Thrain said, beginning to understand. You do not just think differently about space and movement. You process it differently. There is more, Jae-hyun continued. Humans have not shared this information with the galaxy because we were concerned about causing fear. Earth applied for membership in the galactic community as a peaceful species seeking cooperation and knowledge. Dr. Kethra was frantically taking notes. What other capabilities have humans not disclosed? Our strength is proportional to our speed, Jae-hyun explained. Our endurance allows us to maintain high-level performance for extended periods. Our sensory systems are designed to track fast-moving objects and detect threats from great distances. Kiwoo added, On Earth, these abilities are normal. Children play games that would be considered extreme sports on most worlds. Our everyday activities require reflexes and coordination that apparently seem impossible to other species. Commander Thrain leaned back in his chair, trying to process everything he had learned. Why has Earth kept this information classified? Because we want to be members of the galactic community, not its conquerors, Jae-hyun said firmly. Humans value cooperation and peace. We believe our abilities should be used to protect others, not to dominate them. Dr. Kethra looked up from her notes. The medical implications alone are fascinating. How do human bodies handle the stress of such performance? What you consider extreme performance is our baseline, Ki-woo explained. Our bodies are designed for it. The real challenge for humans in space is learning to move slowly enough not to accidentally injure other species. The conference room door chimed, and a communication officer entered. Commander, we are receiving urgent messages from government representatives across the galaxy. They are demanding explanations for what occurred during the speed trials. Thrain stood up, looking tired. Captain Jae-hyun, I believe we need to have a much larger conversation about human integration into galactic society. I agree, Jae-hyun replied. But I hope this can be a conversation about partnership, not about fear. Ki-woo remained quiet, wondering if his moment of honesty during the race had just changed the relationship between humanity and the rest of the galaxy forever. He had wanted to be a peacekeeper, to help bring species together. Instead, he had accidentally revealed that humans were far more capable than anyone had imagined. Now he could only hope that the galaxy would see this as an opportunity for cooperation rather than a threat to be contained. 3 days after the tournament, Ki-woo found himself in an unusual situation. He was confined to quarters, not as punishment, but for his own protection. The revelation of human capabilities had sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy, and reactions ranged from fascination to fear to outright panic. Commander Thrain visited Ki-woo each morning to brief him on the situation. The galactic news networks could talk about nothing else. Scientists were demanding access to human physiology data. Military leaders were questioning whether humans posed a security threat. Politicians were calling for everything from immediate human integration to complete isolation of Earth. "How are my roommates?" Ki-woo asked during one of these briefings. "Confused, but supportive," Thrain replied. "Velthar has been asking when you will return to classes. Gornith seems impressed rather than frightened. Zephyros has been researching Earth's ecosystem to better understand your evolutionary background." That was some comfort to Ki-woo. At least his friends had not abandoned him. On the 4th day, a new visitor arrived at Nexus Station. Yoon Seo was a diplomatic officer from Earth's embassy to the Galactic Council. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and an air of quiet authority that reminded Ki-woo of Major So-min. "Ki-woo," she said as she entered his quarters, "you have certainly created an interesting situation." "I am sorry," Ki-woo said. "I did not mean to cause problems." Yunseo smiled. "Actually, you may have done us a favor. Earth's government has been debating for years whether to reveal more about human capabilities. Your performance has forced the issue." She set up a portable holographic display and activated it. Images of various human activities appeared. Construction workers easily lifting massive beams, athletes performing feats that would be impossible for most species, children playing games that required incredible speed and coordination. "We have been living a careful lie," Yunseo explained. "When Earth first made contact with the galactic community, we presented ourselves as strong but slow. This was partially true. Compared to most galactic species, we are very strong, but we deliberately omitted information about our speed, agility, and endurance. Why? Kaiwu asked. Because first contact protocols suggested that revealing our full capabilities might cause fear and suspicion. Earth wanted to be seen as a valuable partner, not a potential threat. The display showed footage of the galactic news coverage following Kiwu's race. Most reports were respectful but concerned. A few were openly fearful, suggesting that humans might be dangerous predators pretending to be peaceful. However, Yunseo continued, there have also been positive responses. Several worlds facing security challenges have requested human assistance. Some species are fascinated by our abilities and want to learn more about Earth's unique evolution, AI. New figure appeared on the display. Major So-min, speaking at what appeared to be a formal briefing. Major So-min has been conducting educational sessions for galactic military leaders, Yunseo explained. She is demonstrating that human capabilities, while impressive, are not unlimited. We have weaknesses and limitations like any species. Kiwu watched So-min's presentation with interest. She was showing how human performance varied with environmental conditions, how humans required specific nutrition and rest cycles, and how human psychology emphasized cooperation and protection of others. The key message, Yunseo said, is that humans are not superhuman. We are highly capable in certain areas, but we develop these abilities to survive on a dangerous world, not to dominate others. Over the following days, Kiwu was gradually reintegrated into academy life. His first class back was tactical planning, where his instructor, Sub-Commander Velros, addressed the situation directly. I understand there has been considerable discussion about human capabilities, Velros said to the class. I want to address this openly so we can focus on our studies. The classroom was packed. Word had spread throughout the academy that Kiwu would be returning to classes, and students from other sections had found excuses to attend. Kiwu, Velros continued, would you be willing to demonstrate the difference between your restrained and natural movement for the class? Kiwu looked around at his classmates. Velthar's crystals were chiming encouragingly. Gornith was leaning forward with obvious interest. Even students he barely knew seemed supportive rather than fearful. If it would be helpful, Kiwu agreed. First, please move across the room at the speed you normally use during classes. Kiwu stood and walked deliberately across the classroom, taking care to move at what he had learned was a normal pace for most species. It felt unnaturally slow, like moving through thick liquid. Now please demonstrate your natural walking speed. Kiwu moved across the room again, this time at a pace that felt comfortable for him. To the other students, he seemed to glide across the floor with fluid efficiency. And finally, if you are comfortable doing so, please show us the speed you used during the race. Kiwu hesitated, then moved. He was at one side of the room, then the other, then back to his seat. The movement was so fast that several students had to replay it in their minds to understand what had happened. Thank you, Velros said. As you can see, Kaiwu has been deliberately moving slowly to accommodate the rest of us. This demonstrates consideration for others, not an attempt to deceive. A student from another section raised her hand. Is it true that Kiwu was holding back during the race? According to the analysis conducted by Captain Jae-hyun and Major So-min, Velros replied, yes, the speed you witnessed was approximately 30% of human maximum capability. The classroom buzzed with quiet conversations as students processed this information. Another student asked, are all humans this fast? Kiwu answered this one himself. On Earth, I am considered average. Some humans are much faster. Others are slower, but have different strengths. What other abilities do humans have? Asked Velthar. Kiwu thought carefully before answering. We have good endurance, strong spatial awareness, and quick reflexes. But we also have limitations. We need more food than most species. We do not see as well in low light as many of you. We cannot survive in many atmospheric conditions without protection. Sub-Commander Velros nodded approvingly. This brings us to an important lesson about diversity in peacekeeping operations. Every species has unique strengths and limitations. Effective teams use these differences as advantages rather than seeing them as problems. After class, Kai Wu's roommates gathered around him as they walked back to their dormitory. I have been researching Earth's predators, Zephyros said. Your world has creatures that hunt in ways that would be impossible on most planets. It makes sense that humans developed such capabilities. I am curious about human strength, Gornith added. If your speed is 30% of maximum, what about your physical power? Kiwu considered this question carefully. During strength training, I lift weights that feel appropriate for the equipment. But yes, I could lift much more if necessary. How much more? Velthar asked. Perhaps 5 times more? Maybe 10 times, depending on the situation. His roommates exchanged glances. Gornith, who had been proud of his own strength, whistled through his breathing holes. You could have won every category in the tournament, Velthar observed. That would not have been fair to the other competitors, Kaiwu replied. Besides, I am here to learn peacekeeping, not to dominate competitions. That evening, Kaiwu received a message on his personal communicator. It was from Major So Min. Kiwu. Her recorded message said, I hope you are adjusting well to your new situation. I wanted you to know that your honesty during the race has had positive effects. Several worlds have specifically requested human peacekeepers for dangerous missions. You have shown the galaxy that humans can be trusted with great power. She paused, then continued. Remember what I told you about patience. The time has come when your capabilities are both needed and appreciated. Use them wisely. Kiwu looked out his dormitory window at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth continued its orbit around the sun. His family was probably asleep, unaware that their son had accidentally changed the galaxy's perception of humanity. He thought about the conversations with his classmates, the respectful curiosity of his instructors, and the opportunities that Yunseo had mentioned. Perhaps revealing human capabilities had not been a disaster after all. Perhaps it had been exactly what the galaxy needed to see. 6 months had passed since the tournament that changed everything. Kaiwu stood in front of his new classroom, looking out at faces that belonged to some of the galaxy's most elite peacekeeping candidates. The Academy had created a special program called Integrated Species Cooperation, and Kiwu had been asked to serve as both student and instructor. Today, we will practice high-speed tactical coordination, Kiwu announced to his class. Remember, the goal is not for everyone to move at the same speed, but for everyone to move as a coordinated unit. His students included Velthar, Gornith, and Zephyros, who had all requested to transfer into the new program. They had been joined by representatives from a dozen other species, each bringing their own unique capabilities to the team. The training exercise involved navigating a complex obstacle course while maintaining communication and mutual support. Kiwu moved through the course at a pace that challenged his teammates without leaving them behind. When Velthar needed assistance with a climbing section, Kiwu was there instantly. When Gornith struggled with a narrow passage designed for smaller beings, the team worked together to find an alternative route. Excellent coordination, observed Sub-Commander Velros, who now served as the program's supervisor. Kiwu, your ability to adapt your movement to support your teammates has improved significantly. After the exercise, the team gathered in their briefing room. The walls displayed news feeds from across the galaxy, showing human peacekeepers working alongside alien partners on various missions. "I have interesting news," Velros announced. "We have received our first official mission assignment." The room fell quiet with anticipation. For months they had been training and studying. Now they would finally put their skills to use in the field. The mining colony on Kepler 442b has been experiencing raids by space pirates, Velros continued. The local security forces are outmatched, and the colonial government has specifically requested a mixed-species peacekeeping team. Kiwu studied the mission briefing that appeared on the display. The planet was a harsh world with heavy gravity and extreme weather conditions. The pirates had been using hit-and-run tactics, striking quickly and disappearing before local forces could respond. "Why did they request a mixed-species team?" asked Zephyros. "Because the pirates themselves are a mixed group," Velros explained. "They include species with various capabilities. Some are fast, others are strong, some can phase through matter. Traditional single-species responses have been ineffective." Gornith's 4 eyes gleamed with excitement. "When do we depart?" "Tomorrow," Velros replied. "But first, you will meet your mission commander." The door to the briefing room opened, and a familiar figure entered. Captain Inho was a veteran human peacekeeper who had served in some of the most dangerous sectors of the galaxy. His uniform bore decorations from multiple campaigns, and his calm demeanor suggested someone who had faced every possible challenge. "Team," Inho said as he approached the front of the room, "I have reviewed your training records and I am impressed. You have learned to work together in ways that most mixed-species teams never achieve." He activated a tactical display showing the target system. "Our mission is straightforward. Protect the mining colony and capture or disable the pirate fleet. However, the execution will require precise coordination between all team members." Over the next hour, Inho outlined their strategy. Kiwu would use his speed to gather intelligence and provide rapid response to pirate attacks. Velthar's precision would be crucial for disabling pirate ships without destroying them. Gornith's strength would help with any boarding actions. Zephyros's aquatic adaptations would be valuable in the colony's underwater mining operations. The key to success, Inho emphasized, is remembering that we are not trying to overpower the pirates. We are trying to outthink them and work together more effectively than they do. The next day, the team boarded their transport ship and departed for the mining colony. During the journey, Kiwu spent time reviewing the mission files and getting to know his teammates better in their new official capacity. "Are you nervous?" Velthar asked as they sat in the ship's common area. "A little," Kiwu admitted. "This is my first real mission. I want to prove that humans can be good peacekeepers." "You already have," Gornith said firmly. "Your actions at the Academy showed everyone that humans use their abilities to help others, not to hurt them." Zephyros nodded in agreement. "Before I met you, I thought Deathworlders must be violent and dangerous. Now I understand that surviving on a dangerous world taught humans to be protectors." 3 days later, they arrived at the mining colony. The settlement was larger than Kiwu had expected, with thousands of inhabitants from various species. The colonial administrators greeted them with obvious relief. "We are so glad you are here," said Administrator Kolreth, a tall being with blue-green skin. "The pirates struck again just yesterday. They took another shipment of refined minerals, and damaged our primary processing facility. Captain Inho studied the damage reports. What is their typical attack pattern? They appear suddenly, overwhelm our security forces with superior speed and firepower, then disappear before reinforcements can arrive, Kolreth explained. Our forces never have time to mount an effective response. Kiwu examined the security footage from the latest attack. The pirates moved with practiced efficiency, but he could see patterns in their behavior that suggested specific weaknesses. Captain, Kiwu said, I think I can track their movements and predict where they will strike next. Explain, Inho, replied Kiwu, highlighted sections of the footage. They always approach from the same general direction, and they seem to avoid certain areas of the colony. I think they have a hidden base somewhere in the asteroid field nearby. Velthar's crystals chimed with interest. If we could locate their base, we could set up an ambush. Or better yet, Gornith suggested, we could divide their attention between defending their base and attacking the colony. Captain Inho smiled. Good thinking. Kiwu, how quickly can you scout the asteroid field? Give me a fast ship and I can search the entire field in 6 hours, Kiwu replied. Make it happen, Inho ordered. That evening, Kiwu piloted a small, reconnaissance ship through the asteroid field surrounding the colony. His enhanced reflexes allowed him to navigate safely through spaces that would be dangerous for most pilots. After 4 hours of searching, he found what he was looking for. A hidden base carved into the interior of a large asteroid. The base was heavily defended and clearly designed for quick attacks on nearby targets. Kiwu gathered detailed intelligence on its layout, defenses, and the number of ships present. When he returned to the colony, the team developed their plan. They would split into 2 groups. Velthar and Gornith would remain at the colony to defend against the next pirate attack. Kaiwu, Zephyros, and Captain Inho would assault the pirate base to prevent reinforcements and escape routes. The plan worked perfectly. When the pirates attacked the colony the next day, they found themselves facing unexpectedly effective resistance. Velthar's precise targeting disabled their ship's weapon systems, while Gornith's strength allowed him to physically restrain pirate boarders without seriously injuring them. Meanwhile, Kiwu's team had infiltrated the pirate base. Kiwu's speed allowed him to disable the base's defenses before the pirates could react. Zephyros's aquatic adaptations proved valuable in the base's flooded lower sections. Captain Inho coordinated the entire operation with calm efficiency. Within hours, the entire pirate fleet was captured or disabled. The threat to the mining colony was eliminated, and the stolen minerals were recovered as they prepared to return. To the Academy, Administrator Kolreth thanked them personally. I must admit, Kolreth said, when I heard that a human would be part of the peacekeeping team, I was concerned. The stories about Deathworlders made me expect someone violent and unpredictable. And now, Kiwu asked, now I understand that surviving on a dangerous world taught your species to be protectors, Kolreth replied. You use your abilities to keep others safe, not to dominate them. During the journey back to Nexus Station, Kiwu reflected on how much had changed since his first day at the Academy. He was no longer trying to hide his capabilities or pretend to be something he was not. Instead, he was learning to use his abilities in harmony with others. Kiwu, Captain Inho said as they entered the Academy's docking bay, I have a proposal for you. Yes, sir. Earth is forming a new unit called the Human-Alien Cooperation Corps, Inho explained. We need officers who understand both human capabilities and alien perspectives. Would you be interested in joining? Kiwu looked around at his teammates who had become some of his closest friends. Velthar's crystals were chiming encouragingly. Gornith was nodding with all four of his eyes. Zephyros was smiling with genuine warmth. "Will my team be able to join as well?" Kiwu asked. "That was the idea," Inho replied with a grin. 6 months later, Kiwu stood on the bridge of the peacekeeping ship Unity, watching as they approached their newest assignment. The ship's crew included representatives from 20 different species, all working together under human leadership. The friendship tournament had been renamed the Unity Games and had become a celebration of diversity rather than competition.